What's up, guys? Welcome to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Tesla stock, ticker symbol TSLA, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Wednesday, May 15th. Alright guys, Tesla stock today up $5.66 per share in regular trading hours. It's plus 3.29%. Now, a few things going on here. First of all, this morning we got PPI. Okay, the Tesla specific news today is that, remember a couple of weeks ago, Elon said he was dissolving the supercharger team? Well, we got word here from Bloomberg that he's going to go ahead and rehire some of the members of that team. Okay, and now something to be aware of market-wide tomorrow is CPI. Hits 1 hour before the market opens, so we're looking for low inflation numbers here tomorrow. So a busy 24 hours here. I'm expecting volatility tomorrow, but we'll keep an eye out. So let's take a look at Tesla in particular here. We'll take a look at the volume profile. That's kind of peeling back the onion, right? Looking under the hood at what kind of bias we can pull out here from today. We'll then look at the psychological levels moving into tomorrow, implied volatility, the expected move for tomorrow, and the directional bias here coming out of the chain. All right, let's get started here with the volume profile on the 5-minute chart. Listen, if you're new here, guys, Tesla is a daily upload. I cover this stock every single day. My goal here is 10,000 subscribers, so please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it, and I will keep the Tesla videos coming. So if we look under the hood here, very contextual open. Okay, about 3.5 million shares, not bad, right? If we compare that to the other day, it's actually higher than we saw yesterday. Yesterday, we saw just under 2 million off the open, right? So 3.5, that's not bad. But the actual shape of the opening volume is pretty normal here. We got a quick fade. All right, we saw a little bit of pop on those red bars, but we're seeing fades in between. Not enough there to confirm any bias. But there's one thing here that sticks out. Normally off the open, we see volume continue to fade until it kind of hits its floor around like lunchtime. Okay, at least in New York. But here, this is out of context, leaning to the bullish side on a pretty consistent upside move in the stock. That's probably the most aggressive green move we saw all day, right? And it's on pretty obvious bullish bias. So that's something to consider. Through the rest of the day here, nothing extraordinary, and then a very contextual little uptick in volume into the close. This higher volume bar here, that is a rebalancing bar, which is very common on blue chip stocks to see that. Now let's move on. Let's take a look at those psychological self-fulfilling prophecy levels, starting with the 30-minute chart. You guys notice anything? You remember yesterday, right? We were talking about how we had just reclaimed that 50 period. That was really good to see. Well, now today, we ripped up. Remember, bulls, we talked about this. We ripped up through the 200 period. We came down and retested it. Ripped through on high volume. Volume fades off a little bit. Not a tremendous amount, but it fades off a little bit on the retest. And then we see volume hold on. Normally, we expect to see volume kind of taper off this time of day. These two volume bars here, they're equal in size, but they're not created equal because one being later in the day is more meaningful, okay? Because you expect that amount of volume less than you do like an hour earlier. That makes sense. So you see a high volume rip through, a lower volume retest, and then a surprisingly high volume bounce. That's good, right? And then it held with a little pullback and then bounce into the end of the day. Bulls, that's great. We're now above both the moving averages on the 30-minute, but the 30-minute can change quick. So here's what I'm watching tomorrow. I expect if the stock hangs on, right, to see that white line, the 50 period, get above the 200 period. So if we see any retest of the 50 period, I want to see it hold as support, okay, with a high volume bounce like we saw on the retest here today. Now, you bears, a really beautiful thing to see tomorrow here would be getting back beneath both. Because this opens up the opportunity for you bears, right? Because both these moving averages are now close to each other. You can rip back down both beneath those on high volume. Kind of see a repeat of claiming the 200 period here today, except to the bearish side with both of those. You could reclaim both the 50 and the 200 as resistance levels in one smooth motion. All right, that's what you bears are looking to see here on the 30-minute. If we move ahead to the 4-hour, you can see here, guys, that we had just a couple days ago reclaimed the 200 period. All right, this, of course, I mean, just yesterday, really. Now, here today, we barely claimed that 50 period on the 4 hour. So listen, it was a weak reclaim because it was kind of a far move to get there to begin with, right? I mean, we're up over 3% today. So bulls, really simple here tomorrow. All I care about on the 4 hour is holding that 50 period, or more so defining it, because we haven't done so yet, as support, which means getting as much volume as possible on a bounce above the 50 period, putting more distance between the stock price and that level. Bears, equally as simple for you guys here tomorrow. Reject hard back beneath the 50 period. Again, ideally doing so on as much volume as possible. That could set you guys up for a downside move below 175 in the near term, and potentially even down toward another retest of that 200 period. Okay? The daily. This is the most important chart of all of them. Why? It has the most eyeballs, right? You guys know I believe in that self-fulfilling prophecy mentality. That's why TA tends to be effective. In the short term, in the mid and long term, fundamentals 100% take over. In the very short term, this is all psychology. So understand that when we're doing these videos, guys, we're really doing nothing more other than reading. Like, the chart is meaningless without the psychology, if that makes sense. Because when we're looking at this day to day, you get a couple of fundamental repricings mixed in with like earnings and like news events and things of that nature. But even on news events, this chart day to day all the charts really are basically just charts of psychology. That's really all we're looking at here. And the indicators are even more that. There's nothing special about them other than the fact that a lot of people watch them. And that being the case means the funds and institutions watch them for the same reason that we are watching them right now, because people watch them. And then you have funds and institutions watching them, and the amount of money paying attention to the same areas snowballs. So listen, guys, here on the daily, you can see that yesterday we had just attempted to reclaim that 50-day, right? Well, today was a great day. We put some distance in between. Two things here tomorrow. Bulls, any retest of the 50-day, I don't want to give that back up. Ideally, with each $10 increment being kind of a psychological level on Tesla, with each like $100 and $50 increment being, increasingly more important. Like 180, a break and hold of 180 would be a good thing to the upside to look for tomorrow. But holding the 50-day, if we were to see a downside move, like if CPI looks bad or something and the market gets dragged down, if we were to retest that 50-day, I do not want to give that up. Bears, giving up the 50-day, rejecting 180 if we test it again, and giving up the 50-day especially, is like your best case scenario here come tomorrow. All right, now implied volatility. Particularly important for you options traders. Look at this. Compared to the last 3 months, IV is very low. So if you're buying options, a lot of people would consider these more favorable times. I would be one of those people, right? Because you're paying less Vega value up front. It's, of course, still helpful to be directionally correct, but options are complex instruments, right? It's being directionally correct is only one part of the equation. Ideally, you want to put yourself in position to benefit from all of the Greeks, or at least as many of them as possible. Vega is a big one. You guys probably see on like Reddit forums all the time of people getting IV crushed, and it just adds insult to injury. Well, you can easily avoid at least putting yourself in a position of not being aware of that as a risk by being aware of where implied volatility is at all times. In my experience, most of the time when people get IV crushed, they realize what happened after it's too late. Most of the time, they didn't go into the position understanding their position fully. And I mean, when you look at that objectively from a third-party perspective, that sounds really silly, doesn't it? So don't be that person. But IV here on Tesla low right now, more favorable for new buyers, less favorable for those looking to sell to open and farm premium. Okay? Now, if we take a look here, let's do expected move. So the next expiration we have here on Tesla is going to be Friday, May 17th. The expected move, if we look to the right here, by Friday's close compared to today's close is plus or minus $6.56 per share. We divide that by 3 trading days because we're trying to get tomorrow, but then we add back 50% to make up for the fact that that initial calculation assumes 3 green days or 3 red days. That gives us, when we're all done doing our educated guesswork, which is necessary. We don't have daily expirations, right? We get a plus or minus expected move of approximately $3.28 per share here tomorrow, by tomorrow's close. That's the expected volatility being priced in by the market. By design, there's no directional bias baked in. So how do we do that? Well, we just did a full analysis, but we can do one more thing. Volume. Over 1.6 million contracts traded here today on Tesla. 918,000 of those were calls, 716,000 puts, a slight bullish bias on the overall. And if we break that down by the short-term speculators, right, the 0 to 20 delta range, you're left with 346,000 calls, 233,000 puts. Bullish bias out of the short-term speculators heading into tomorrow here on Tesla. Listen, guys, if you're getting value out of the daily Tesla uploads, especially the night before, big news event like CPI, please, I ask one thing, leave a like on the video, and then get out of here and enjoy your day. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.